What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So it seems like every year that there's an E3, we typically kind of talk about, do we need E3 and is this the end for it? Well, based on a new report yesterday, looks like we're about to have that conversation once again. Is this the end of E3? We'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a Nintendo game that's coming up that appears to have an extra mode and content leak out through way of an advertisement. And we'll also be talking about Sony, who has their own string of new ads for the PlayStation 5 that people are wondering maybe is hinting at a return for a certain series. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. We're gonna start today with Xbox Live games with gold for the month of February. It hasn't been good for seemingly years now, but every single month I say, hey, you know what? They're free titles, might as well highlight them, and maybe one of these months things will surprise me and it'll actually be good. So let's see what's on tap for February. Starting with For the King, that's February 1st to the 28th. And then Guts and Goals, that's February 16th to March 15th. I feel like most people are going to be finding out about these games for the first time right now. But there you go. It's $39.98 in value and 2,000 in gamer score. I also want to remind everyone that Xbox Live Gold is technically on the same tier level as PlayStation Plus Essentials, and we just went over games like the Destiny expansion and Mafia compared to this. So Microsoft just doesn't really care about Xbox Live Gold at all. I mean, they're free titles if you already have the service, so you may as well claim them and add them to your account, but certainly not anywhere on the level of PlayStation Plus Essentials, and it's just not very exciting at all. In fact, every month I wonder if it can get any better, and then somehow it just gets less and less exciting, but hey, they're free, might as well claim them and add them to your account. Also, last week, Hi-Fi Rush took over headlines across the board, and more reviews have been coming in for this game as outlets have had a chance to play it, since remember, it did shadow drop, and the reviews are pretty good. It's coming in right near 89 to 90, yeah, but it also appears that the sales have been very good because we have a look at how things were going on Steam, and we can see this. This is the chart that tracks ending January 29th. So top sellers for that week. This tracks by revenue, by the way. So it makes sense why the Steam Deck, for example, would be number one, as it's a 400, 500, go all the way up to 700 some odd dollars there. But I wanted to point out Hi-Fi Rush specifically, what, a $30 game coming in at number 8. And yes, that did outsell Forspoken in the same amount of time, and Forspoken is more than double the price, I guess, of Hi-Fi Rush. That coming in at $70, and just shows if you have a really good game, yes, it can pull in more revenue even if it's cheaper, but also the excitement around it shadow dropping and being a very unique looking title from Tango Gameworks, who we know for things like Evil Within. But the game's awesome. I've been going through it and kind of taking my time playing it, a half hour here, an hour here, and sort of using quick resume on the Xbox. But a very interesting title that I recommend everyone at least try out. Oh, and just a quick heads up, it does appear that The Crew 3 will have some sort of reveal later on today, which we can see this over on Twitter, where The Crew 2's Twitter account just started responding to people like all over Twitter, saying tomorrow, that'd be today, 9 a.m. Pacific time or noon Eastern. And we've already had information around the Crew 3 leak out to where it's going to take place in Hawaii. It originally started out as DLC apparently for Crew 2 and then just sort of evolved into its own game. So there you go, fans of the Crew series. It looks like you'll have at least something drop today related to the new Crew title. Could be a teaser trailer. Could be a full-on reveal for it because it sounds like it's actually coming out midway through this year, or at least the third quarter, so look out for that later on today. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with E3 2023. That's supposed to be taking place in June, and the ESA brought in ReedPop, who organizes all of the different PAX events, and those do really well. They go off without a hitch. People enjoy their time at the different PAX events that happen all across the US. But now they're tasked with E3, which has been rough now with a lot of these companies realizing we can do it ourselves. We can just stream to people. Like, we can just randomly set up, announce it, I don't know, a couple days ahead of time like Nintendo may do with a Direct, and pull in millions and millions of viewers and get our message out there without spending a ton of money to be at E3. Well, it appears that platform holders are figuring this out, as you'd kind of expect, since they all sort of have their own kind of streaming standalone events now, right? Even Microsoft with their Developer Direct. Well, we could see this post up over on IGN, and this went up last night, where they say exclusive Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony won't be part of E3 2023. All three of gaming's first-party console manufacturers appear poised to skip E3's big return. This is kind of interesting because we just talked about Phil Spencer really, I'd say, playing up E3 as being very important to gaming and how they're part of the ESA and they want to support E3, and it sounds like they're not going to be there, but technically they weren't there. I believe the last time there was an in-person E3, I think that was 2019. They were at their own center that's like a block away from where E3 takes place, but it's my understanding that the badges at E3 would allow you to get into Microsoft's event there, so maybe they'll just cut that off and they'll officially be separate from E3 completely. And we know, of course, that Sony has been skipping E3 for years now, but Nintendo, while they had their Direct that was pre-recorded, they did have their own booth that was set up themed around different games, and they were kind of reeling it in each year now, but them completely skipping it's going to be tough for E3. I saw a lot of people were very deflated when this news happened because yeah, you go into E3 thinking about what's Microsoft, Nintendo, and for a while there's Sony gonna show, but at least Microsoft and Nintendo. Now, I do want to stress, there appears to still be a Microsoft event in place, or at least in planning currently, and it sounds like they're trying to line it up so that it's still gonna happen around E3 time. In fact, it'll probably be the same exact time on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, so that they can have it kind of lined up for press and media that will already be in town for E3. And as for Nintendo, I'm sure they'll do their typical Direct. They just may not have a lot to show off on the showroom floor, specifically to spend millions and millions of dollars for. And that's something that Andy Robinson did point out here over on Twitter, where he says PlayStation's decision isn't a surprise, which sure, it has been there for a little while, but I understand Nintendo feels it doesn't have enough major releases ready to show that would justify significant event space. So we had talked about this previously. If you remember, Christopher Dring brought up the idea that Nintendo may not have anything massive, quote unquote, or big in terms of retail after The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That is going to do very, very well when it releases. That is a quote unquote major retail release. And if they don't have anything really big after Zelda for the rest of the year, and I know, again, Pikmin, sure, there are a lot of fans of that online, but it's not a 10 million unit seller that will be, again, big at retail. Yeah, you would start thinking we are going into that period of time where Nintendo is certainly doing a lot of development for their next system, and there might be that bit of a gap, 6, 7, 8 months, where we don't have a massive release for the Switch as they are working on software to launch their next system well. Oh, and I do want to give Jeff Keighley some credit here, as he had the very timely tweet for Summer Game Fest, you can see, saying Summer Game Fest returns live Thursday, June 8th. From YouTube Theater. Tune in to see what's next from the video game industry, which, remember, Jeff's been getting some of those Sony reveals like the DualSense Edge, so yeah, you could see something from Sony there, I'm sure, and they have not participated in E3 for quite some time, so I wouldn't be shocked if he's also able to pull in Microsoft and Nintendo and not necessarily have something on the level of what E3 was doing, which was like an entire week-long event with all these different reveals, but having a showcase with each one having a different game in there, I mean, that's gonna look more like E3 that E3 could roll in with, where they have, I guess, like Square, Capcom, and, you know, some larger third-party publishers involved. As for me, my hype has been diminished quite a bit hearing about how disjointed E3 appears to be currently, because if you look at IGN, they had some sources that kind of talked about the back-end dealings and setup that's happening with ReedPop and the ESA, which we can see this again over on IGN. There's not a good sense that there's an understanding that this show is going to be or how it will come together, which is strange from a company that does such an amazing job with PAX twice a year. It seemed like they'd be the perfect shepherds for something like E3, so who knows where the issue is? Is it an ESA issue? Is it a Repop issue? But there seems to be a lot of genuine interest from game publishers in the concept of E3, but it's really frustrating that we don't have good solution. So wow, it's again a lot of concerns right now about E3. So we'll see what ReedPop is able to put together here as we head towards June. But I guess we'll look out for more information from E3, probably a month or two out, as you would expect them to start announcing things like schedules and of course, the showroom floor plan. Next up, let's talk about Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe. It's the next game up for the Switch, and it's coming out February 24th. We had sort of the back of the box art get out there a bit early online, which we can see here. This posted up over on Reddit through Nintendo Life. And on the back, they go over some of the features and added content. One thing people noticed is that it's mentioning an epilogue. So something you'll be doing, as they say, brave an extra quest after the ending. And this got people pretty excited because it is new content for Kirby. And while this is, yes, a remake from a game on the Wii, we have seen some new things in here, like new copy abilities that was shown off in the game. They had like the little mini games and stuff like that. So they're adding some stuff, but it is one of those games you look at and you see the price, you're like, 60 for this? I don't know. I mean, if you're a Kirby fan, you're all over this. I get it. But the idea of at least having some kind of new story or added content in way of an epilogue does make it at least a bit more interesting to run through the game and see what they have for us there. I assume this is something that will be showcased maybe in a trailer coming up here soon, because I mean, this game's out in a little over 3 weeks now. Also, I'm a little curious on a hype check for Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe, as I'm thinking about it now with a Wii title. That's technically a while ago. I mean, it's more than a decade, so there are probably a lot of newer gamers coming in and have never played that one, and yeah, maybe they're genuinely excited for this Kirby game that'll be new to them, so let me know. Next up, let's talk about a new string of advertisements from Sony for the PlayStation 5. We had talked briefly about this because one of these ads played in Australia for Spider-Man 2, and it mentioned spring 2023, which in Australia, for the US, that would technically be fall 2023, which the correct region ad that was shown does say fall 2023 for Spider-Man 2. But there were several ads that played. One was kind of funny because they were sitting at a desk and it was just a giant PlayStation 5 for their newsroom. A lot of this is them reporting live from a field where things are blowing up around them. They're trying to pull from these different games, and well, you can see this here. This is kind of the card they have, as well as some information they put out around the PlayStation 5 stock situation, which has not been great, but it appears they've kind of gotten this figured out now. You can see the live from PlayStation card over on PlayStation blog. They say, to all our fans, thank you for your patience as we navigated unprecedented demand for the PlayStation 5 console and global challenges. If you're looking to purchase a PS5 console, you should now have a much easier time finding one at retailers globally. So, great news there. It should be easier and easier to get these into stores on retail store shelves. Hopefully you walk into a Walmart, a Best Buy, wherever, and you can just grab a PlayStation 5 off the shelf, pay for it, and go home. You don't have to worry about paying a scalper or shipping time from PlayStation Direct. It'll be like the old days where they're in stock in stores. But there was one advertisement that played, and it had people kind of scratching their head because it sort of looked like they were hinting at a new Uncharted game. And this has to do with, it'd be Cassie Drake. In Uncharted, you get towards the end, they kind of have like an epilogue portion to it, and it sort of looks like they're playing off the idea of continuing the series, not necessarily with Nathan Drake, all right? So in this case, people looked at it and said, oh, this could legitimately be a tease for the next line of Uncharted games with a new character. I think it's possible, but I also think it'd be kind of weird for them to necessarily tease it in this way through an advertisement, because they might just have it as the default adventure style video game that they're showcasing for their PlayStation 5 universe and system. Also, we just talked about Naughty Dog saying they're done with Uncharted, although they said they are done with it. Doesn't mean that maybe another studio at Sony wants to continue the Uncharted universe with a new character, new storyline, a new cast of supporting characters. So because it could be almost a clean break from the Nathan Drake series, yeah, maybe, I guess it is possible, sure. It's a very popular series for Sony, and they could continue that forward and probably do very, very well. So I'm not necessarily counting out the idea of another Uncharted game because I think it's very likely. I just don't know if they're telling us that through this live from PlayStation advertisement. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Capcom, who is very, very strong right now. A while ago, specifically before Monster Hunter World came out, they were in a very bad place. Monster Hunter World really saved that company, and now they're absolutely flourishing with a lot of these Resident Evil remakes that they're doing, as well as Monster Hunter, which continues to explode in popularity. Monster Hunter Rise has just been a tremendous success for them. But we can see this posted up over on VGC, where they say Capcom says it's set to sell a record number of games for a fiscal year. They expect to have sold more than 40 million units by April. At this time, so by the end of December 31st, 2022, this is the last reporting period they had, they sold 29.1 million games, which means they're looking to sell just under 11 million games between the end of December, so January, February, and then March. That would be the final quarter. And I was looking at this, I thought, wow, that seems very ambitious to say you're going to sell nearly 11 million copies of software, but I mean, they're going to have a lot of stuff with Monster Hunter. Of course, that just going to things like the PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series. They have Sunbreak as well set up for that. And they have Resident Evil 8 or Village, that of course going into VR next to PSVR 2. And the big one that I think is going to just push them over the edge for that 40 million software mark, Resident Evil 4 Remake is coming out March 24th, which means it will have 1 week on the market to finish up their fiscal year. And it does seem like they're kind of banking on Resident Evil 4 Remake to do extremely well in its first week, but I also kind of expect it to do really well. I mean, they're putting it on the PlayStation 4 even. I saw some people mention maybe they're going to have a Monster Hunter ready to go. And I'm kind of thinking they looked at the year and said, oh, that's for the entirety of 2023. No, that's up until the end of March. So I don't think they're announcing Monster Hunter World 2 now and then releasing it in March with Resident Evil 4 Remake there. But if they're able to hit 40 million pieces of software sold, that's the best they've ever done in the history of the company. And that's without Monster Hunter World 2, which, by the way, I do believe is coming potentially, at least getting announced, maybe by the end of this year, but they could take their time, end up in 2024 with that announcement. The only thing I will caution Capcom with is they do seem interested in cross-gen, as we're seeing with Resident Evil 4 Remake, but the longer they wait for Monster Hunter World 2 or the next big Monster Hunter game, the less likely I think it'd be worth to do cross-gen as more and more people kind of move away from those systems onto the PS5 and the Xbox Series, especially with a lot of the stock issues being worked out. So if they're pushing just completely current gen now on the PS5 and the Xbox Series, sure, go all the way until 2024. But if they're still looking at that PS4 and that Xbox One 11 years potentially after they came out, that might be a bit of a stretch. But either way, Capcom is on a roll, extremely strong in terms of sales and just the overall health of the company now. That's great to see. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you picking up Resident Evil 4 Remake? So we have 28% saying yes, I'm just getting it immediately, ASAP. 38% say yes, but later when it goes on sale, or I'm just able to. And then 33% said no, I'm not interested. That's actually pretty good. A lot of times I'll do these polls and nearly 50% will say, no, I'm just not interested in this specific title. In this case though, seeing 67% of people at least say, you know, yeah, I'm interested. At some point at least, bare minimum, I will pick this one up. And Resident Evil 4 Remake, I'm incredibly excited for because Resident Evil 4 is a classic. It is an incredible game. When it came out, it was this amazing thing, and you could still go back to it now, and it's still good, but I think this remake will take that game to the next level, and I cannot wait for this game to come out in March. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Soup saying, we're getting into Nintendo Direct territory this week with the start of February, expecting rumors and leaks to ramp up quite a bit. Yeah, you're definitely gonna see a lot of rumors and leaks start to pop up more and more as we get deeper into February, but you're also gonna see those lists get passed around all over the place. The ones where it looked like they're running through Nintendo's conference room with their phone and they just happen to snap it at the right moment in Nintendo of America or something. So those lists, like 99% of the time, are fake, and I know a lot of people send them to me, and sometimes they're funny to go through because the titles are just ridiculous, but maybe we'll look at one at some point if it really gets out of control online and we can see what crazy wacky titles that people just randomly came up with from an anonymous source. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Are you excited to pick this one up? And are you happy to hear that there'd be some new content maybe at the end of the game? And then also, what about E3? Going into 2023, there is at least some hope that they would return to the old days, but now it's sounding like it may be in trouble. Do you think this could really be the end of E3? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.